welcome back to another Dune Raider video. As we approach the release date for the game on December 13th, I wanted to make a video describing the process I went through for making the physics for my first indie game. Most games in Unity can simply work with the engine's built-in physics. However, from the start, I knew that my sand surfing game would need to have its own physics simulation for the board itself. All of the physics in the game that has to interact with the sand is handled entirely via custom scripts, as I always wanted the sand itself to be treated more like water, which Unity does not have built-in physics for. To get started, I needed to make the board collide with the sand itself. So I implemented the very simple solution of checking the height map every frame, and if the board ever falls below it, it simply stops all downward motion, and is set to be right where the sand is. This, of course, does not handle sliding down slopes, which was what I worked on next. Instead of stopping all motion in the downward direction, I just needed to calculate the normals on the height map and cancel all motion along the inverse of the normal. With this, I had a fully functional board that could slide across the ground all I wanted, with zero friction. In order to add control to the board, I wanted that to be physically simulated as well, instead of arbitrarily redirecting momentum. So I added rotational controls to the board, allowing the player to roll and pitch with the W, A, S, and D keys, and then I started to treat the board itself as a control surface, which would provide drag along the normal. With this, however, came the first problem I noticed that I would have with gameplay. That being that the physics is too realistic. Whenever the board turns, there is such a massive loss of momentum that you would not even be able to do a 360 turn before coming to a full stop. This is incredibly unsatisfying and punishing for the simplest of maneuvers. So to counter this, I added a momentum conservation system. Before applying the drag of the board's control surface, I record the current velocity, and then after the drag is applied, I calculate how much speed was lost as a result of the turn, and then reapply some of that lost momentum to the board's new direction. This gives more precise control over how much momentum is lost when turning. With all of the sand surfing done, there was just one more thing to do. I needed to be able to surf on rocks. That's right, the terrain itself was not enough. There are many obstacles in the game, and I wanted to be able to skid on those surfaces or ramp off of them without Unity's physics going haywire. Considering that these are actually handled by the built-in collision system, I had to essentially rewrite all of the surfing physics for the sand to work on a solid surface as well. This involved adapting the uprightness algorithm I had for the sand, fixing the random jitters that would happen when sliding across a surface, and switching over the controls to use pitch and yaw instead of pitch and roll. And lastly, I made it so that certain objects, such as loops, would have a rail system that would auto-align the player whenever they attempt to use them. And that should conclude all of the main features of the sand surfing physics. There are, of course, a lot of minor features I added throughout the years, such as being able to boost your board from a standstill, being able to perform tricks in the air, and a lot of small control tweaks. I also added a number of ways in which the player can accelerate, the main one being wind power, which is completely random across the map, which allows the player to get up to ludicrous speeds if they are patient enough. But that concludes this review of my development on my first indie game, Dune Raider. You can wishlist it on the store page in the description for when it releases later this week on December 13th. Next time I will be making a video on the combat system and the various items I have created throughout development. But until then, bye.